we have a small group, so this is actually going to be really quick, but let me give you a quick update on what's going on with QWEL and this certificate. So I will be presenting at the next board meeting, which is mid-July, to propose a two-tiered certification process, so that if you take the class, you pass the test, and you participate in a demonstration installation, then you get a participatory certificate. And then you would go on and do another longitudinal landscape or an additional branch drain system in order to get the graywater QWEL certification. So that's where the listing comes in, and you get the QWEL certificate for that. But so for now, we are going to give participation certificates, but I need you to fill out and submit to me the installation packet that we passed out, and then I think you've seen a couple copies of since. So we're just going to go through that really quick. I have Chris Reamer on the line. Hi, Chris. Chris, are you there? Give me 1 second, maybe some technical difficulties.
Did you unmute me?
There you go.
Okay.
Hi.
Hey.
Okay, good to go. Okay, so this is the packet. I hope that you guys all have your packets on hand and are following along. Essentially what we did was we went through and did the packet ourselves, and then I scanned in those pages. So that's the handwritten site packet, that's the same as you could submit to me after we're done. You can scan it to me, you can fax it to me, you can actually put it in the mail for me, whatever is easiest for you, it's fine by me. So this is that first page, the installer name, that's you, Marilyn, Joel, Loretta, Frank, Al. So just write your name on that. The client's name, you can write Ray Leone. I know he's the renter there, but he's our contact, so. And then the address, I'm just going to skip between these two. It's 1314 Adeline Avenue. So fill in that information. And then looking at that installation requirement 1 through 7, we're going to go through and initial most of those. So the site evaluation, we calculated the water budget and irrigation field size, and we're going to go through all those calculations again here. The design layout, this is actually how we decided where the system was going to go, where to plant our trees. System requirements and location, what components do we need, how many feet of piping, the backflow prevention device. Number 5 is laundry to landscape installation. We did this as a branch drain, so you just write not applicable there on the installer initials. Number 6, is a permit required? The answer is yes. It's a complex plumbing change permit from the city of Fresno. And I just went ahead and put not applicable to number 7. You can see why. Don't worry about client initials or client signature. All right, Chris, take it away.
Okay, so highlighting the important stuff of the site evaluation step, identifying the goals. Are they trying to irrigate something? Some people do systems that they're just kind of disposing of the water. We were definitely trying to irrigate fruit trees, both new and existing. The laundry room location, or in our case, shower location, how we'll be drilling through. We drilled through brick and wood. The tools we needed, leveling tools, digging tools, plumbing tools. the plants, we knew that we had new fruit trees we were going to be irrigating as well as existing trees. Talking about product selection, avoiding salts and boron, environmental considerations, and mostly streams or any type of surface water drainage ways that could potentially be contaminated. Hazards like big open pits in your garden you can fall into, and any other kind of things you would notice like that. Code requirements for non-permitted, we did have a permitted system, and we'll go over the different requirements of that. And then rebates, Nash?
Yeah. As you guys know, LGC launched their We Can rebate program. So we had to do a little bit of changing things up because of the state rebates and some of their requirements. So we are currently offering $2,000 for gray water rebate for gray water installation. And that can go towards your permitting costs, that can go towards the plumber, materials, mulch, anything. And then that you can also submit for $1,000 through the Save Our Water rebates in the city of Fresno. So potentially $3,000 towards a new landscape, which is substantial. As for the soil percolation test, I think you guys recall that we are going through some back and forth with the city of Fresno regarding the soil. So they were really concerned that there wasn't going to be a high enough infiltration rate in the soil, and that would result in ponding or runoff. Ponding and runoff is probably the biggest hazard to human health and safety that gray water poses. So understandable that they were concerned, but they initially came back and said that we needed to get a third-party soil verification test, which would have cost anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500. They've since backed off on that and now want the homeowner to sign a waiver, waiving all liability for the city and for the professional pulling the permit. So in this case, that was our friend Bob Shuey, the plumber. So we're still working on them with some of these requirements, but generally, and what the code says pretty explicitly, is that you can use the percolation tables in the table. You can do an on-site test. You can use local knowledge. Common local knowledge is pretty common, although the code does specify that a city must explicitly allow for the use of common knowledge of local conditions rather than it being the default in the code. The soil at Ray's house was very sandy. It had a very high percolation rate, so there really is very little danger of ponding or runoff in this situation, especially because we're using the California Plumbing Code water budget, even though right now it's just Ray living in the house. So he's actually producing less water than the California Plumbing Code water budget table dictates. So, and last would be clients' questions. These are things like, where do you want the three-way diverter valve to go? The most common questions are regarding types of products that they can use and maintenance on this system. So, yeah, moving on.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Okay, so then our next step was determining the gray water production. And in the table, you can see we have the left section. This is actual data that's based on estimating the flow rate of the different fixtures and adding up your gray water production that way. And then on the right is using the formulas in the code. So we show both here filled out, and on the left-hand side we have 2.5 gallons per minute multiplied by 10 minutes per day, so 25 gallons per day, 775 gallons per month. And then using the code method, which is based on the number of bedrooms, we technically had 3 occupants, which for showers and not laundry equates to 75 gallons per day, so 3 times as much as the actuals. And then our soil type was sandy loam, and using the table in code, design criteria for different soil types, which we'll look at in a second, we determined we could put 2.5 gallons. Here in the table, we can see if we scroll down to sandy loam soil type in the far right column, it says 2.5 gallons maximum per square foot per day. That's sandy loam soil. Knees. Okay, and then because we are producing 75 gallons per day, we divide that by 2.5 gallons per square foot to get our minimum 30 square feet of irrigation area.
So just
that's
to
our
clarify,
minimum required
irrigation. In case anyone doesn't quite grasp this, which I've had some struggles with. So 30 square feet is the minimum amount of area needed for the water budget that we've come up with. So based on the infiltration rate of the soil and the amount of gray water being produced, this is the minimum amount of square footage we can have being irrigated. Otherwise, the concern is that you are exceeding the infiltration rate of that soil and you're going to have runoff and ponding.
So then the next step is we know how much gray water we're producing, we know our minimum irrigation field size, and now we need to know the irrigation requirement of what we want to irrigate. So we're calculating out the area of the plants that we're trying to irrigate. We just had one hydrozone since all of our fruit trees were kind of one plant type, and we estimated the square footage of each tree as a circle having a 5-foot diameter, and we figured some are a little bit smaller now, but they'll probably be within a year about that size. So we did a pi r squared area of a circle calculation with a 5-foot diameter to get 19.63 square feet, or approximately 20 square feet per tree. We had 6 trees, so total we had 120 square feet was our hydrozone canopy area. Then we completed the full water budget calculation, so we had our 0.62, the constant that's converting from inches to gallons, multiplied by our ETO, which was the peak monthly 8.91, times, so there we can see the CMES report for the area showing the ET values, and we had actually 8.91 was the number we used here for the peak for July, total ETO. So we multiplied that times our 0.5 is our plant factor for a moderate water use tree. So there we're showing a WCALS listing the water use classification of landscape species database, and an orange citrus tree listed as a moderate water use, which would equate to a 0.5 plant factor. And then we multiplied all those together to get 331.45 gallons per month as our total water budget. So then we looked again at our gray water production, and first we looked at, so the total area of our hydrozone canopies are 120. That's our fruit tree area. Is it big enough to meet or exceed our minimum required area, which is 30 square feet, which obviously we are. We're 4 times as much already. And then last step, we looked at the gray water production and versus the amount of water that the plants need. So, and determined, is it more or less? So our total amount of water needed was 331.45 gallons per month. And then our production, based on the code, is 775 or no, that was the actual, is that the code estimate there, or is that the
No, that,
actual?
I chose to use the actual because we're making sure that Ray doesn't need to be watered
Right.
in addition to.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And that's definitely. So we're already, even at that number, we're more than 2 times as much. So we could irrigate more plants with that amount of water we're producing. And in fact, there was a lot of existing plants on the peripheries of our mulch basins we were irrigating. So we were irrigating other areas. And then also just a reality check that these numbers are kind of based on a theoretical perfect efficiency, like saying that every gallon that is, produced would actually be utilized to full 100%, which in reality is not the case. So, yeah, that's another just fudge factor in these numbers. Then the next step, the design layout of the system, especially important for a branch drain because we have these different fractions of the flow that occur at different outlets. So here we're showing a site plan with kind of the most important stuff annotated. We have the location of the fixtures, showers, etc. that are connected, location of the diverter valve, and the kind of conceptual layout of the system. The flow splitters are shown as red dots. So we're noting the setbacks on this drawing. You see how far we're at least 2 feet off the property line at our closest location. We note the location of the actuator switch and also the actuator motor. And there's a couple other notes on here about the plumbing assemblies, the type of three-way valve, and the backwater valve, the sewer check valve on the sewer side of the three-way valve, that's noted. We noted kitchen sink is not connected, and some more details about the outlets, the address, and then down at the bottom we kind of re-showed our design calculations for gray water production and our minimum irrigation field sizes.
Good. For you guys filling out your packets, you can either pull this diagram and actually put it in, or you could just do your own sketch. And really, what you need to include would just be basically the house, maybe the gazebo area to show that there's a hardscape area, and then a basic design of the system in the backyard. So the flow splitters, and then the mulch basins as well. So you don't have to have as much information as on here, but I think it's a good exercise to draw that out on your own if you're interested.
So then, last step was going through the 12 requirements, and even though these were specifically created for the permit-exempt laundry to landscape system, all of these are kind of the same common sense requirements that we're adhering to for our shower system that we did. So going through down notification, so we did pull our permit and everything from the city, so they were all notified. Number 2, we have our ability to switch back to the sewer, both in the three-way valve and then also remotely via the actuator switch. No potable water connection. So just a minor note there, Nosh, earlier you had mentioned backflow prevention device or maybe something like that, which is not a requirement on this system, and it gets kind of confusing, the vocabulary, that with a sewer check valve, which is different and is just for wastewater, gravity-fed wastewater. But because we don't have a potable water connection, we don't need an actual backflow prevention device on our property. And gray water is contained on the site via our design of the whole system, the mulch basin, surge capacity, and having sufficient area. It's contained within a disposal field, ensuring we have no ponding or runoff. All our distribution points were at least 2 inches below solid shields, and in fact they were as deep as 2 feet at our farthest point. Designed to minimize contact, so we accomplished that with our outlet shields and our mulch basins. No hazardous chemicals, so we've educated the homeowners about the appropriate products to use through their gray water system. 11, we're not choosing this as a launching pad to build a swimming pool and do a whole bunch of other crazy stuff that we need permits for. So we're adhering to that. And then the operation and maintenance manual, which is left with the homeowner. And in most cases, the permit submission itself, like for this system, can largely function as the owner and maintenance manual and has all the necessary details for that. And then last, this is showing the setbacks, and mostly this is kind of just an exercise to make sure that the installer is taking these into account in his design. So the important ones are we have our 1.5 foot setback from building structures and property lines. And this table shows you everything you need, but you need to pay attention to the 50,000 different footnote marks that relate you down to the notes at the bottom. So we can see that from building structures over to the middle right column, we have footnote number 8, which says the distance shall be permitted to be reduced to 1.5 feet for drip and mulch basin irrigation systems. And that you basically could fill in this verbatim into the table in the installation packet.
And when you fill those values in to your installation packet, fill in the notes, because they're actually where most of the important information is, namely reduced to 1.5 feet for drip and mulch basin irrigation systems.
Mm-hmm.
So that is like pretty much it. So fill this in based on the code. I think I've shown you all how to get to the code, but if you just Google CPC Chapter 16 2016, you'll get this website. So here you can see the soil type table, and then the other table is on here too. It's somewhere. So you can find that on there. This webinar will be available. We've recorded it, so you can find it on the. Allison, I'm not sure how you're planning to share it. Probably a link following the end. Here is that how to calculate your water budget based on the code. This information's right there. So pretty easy. The next page in your packet is a laundry to landscape installation. When the class was originally designed, it was just a laundry to landscape, and we thought we were missing out on an opportunity to teach the more complex stuff. So I think this is just a really nice breakdown of how to do a laundry to landscape system. Just step by step, pretty simple, assuming you have some handy skills on the side. Chris, anything else to add about the installation packet or closing thoughts?
No, I don't think so. I guess always good to include photos of the system in progress, more to the operations maintenance manual. Yeah, take pictures of the systems and share your work. And you've clarified enough about the certification and the dual certification and all that.
Yeah, so we'll have more information on that next month once we meet with the QWEL board. But essentially, if you submit your packet to me, then I will send you a certificate of participation in the course. And then if you do an additional installation, laundry to landscape or a branch drain, so just one of each at this point because you've already done the one branch drain installation. And you have to, the way that you do that is you submit this packet to me based on that system. And in that case, you will have to have the client signatures and initials throughout the packet. And if that's your house, then that's you, and that's fine also. I would love pictures too, please. Looking at this page right now, it says important, please attach a copy of your operations and maintenance manual. I sent you guys, or rather in your class materials, you got a standard maintenance manual. We have one that we made specific to this house, and it talks a little bit more about maintenance. Are you guys interested in having that? I could send that around to you if you're interested. I have a question from Loretta. On step 2, my package has laundry information, not shower information. Okay, so we sent around the updated packet. Let's see, step 2, water budget. Oh, so there's no shower option there, Loretta? Okay. Okay. So how about just fill this information in then? You'll have this webinar, so you can pull it. I could also send you the packet. If you just write 2.5 gallons per minute, 10 minutes per day, 25 gallons per day, 775 gallons per month. If you just do this simple, you don't need to write all of that stuff in. Then that'll be sufficient. And I'll make sure that on the follow-up email where you get the link, we also send you the permit submission, which has the site plan and some other nice diagrams, and we'll send you another packet as well if you're going to do an independent installation. All right. Anybody else have any questions? If you type them into your platform on the right-hand side, I can see them. Thank you, Loretta. All right. If nobody has anything else, then we'll cut you loose. Does anybody do you guys need the address? I think that you should have it, but we'll include that in the email as well. All right, great. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.